The world isn't fair, and the sooner you accept that, the faster you stop being its victim. Right now, as you listen, there's someone less intelligent than you, getting more respect. Someone weaker than you is holding more influence. Someone with fewer skills is already living the life you want, simply because they understand how people really work. You were trained to follow rules that others stopped caring about long ago. You were told to be nice, while others learned to be strategic. You were told to wait for respect, while others decided to take it. The game was never fair, but not in the way you imagine. It's unfair to those who refuse to learn the real rules. It's unfair to those who think fairness itself exists. It's unfair to those who believe good intentions matter more than understanding power. Over 500 years ago, Niccolò Machiavelli exposed how power actually functions. He explained why good people end up ignored, and why ruthless strategists end up leading. Today, I'm going to share 8 dark psychological lessons that can turn you from someone overlooked into someone who feels unshakable, confident, and impossible to ignore. But a warning, once you see how human psychology really works, you can't unsee it. Once you understand these laws, you'll never be able to blame anyone else for keeping you small. I used to be that invisible guy, smart, hard-working, genuine, but no one listened. I saw loud and confident people rise faster than those who deserved it. I watched manipulators build success while honest people kept struggling. I saw charming but selfish people collect followers while good-hearted ones were left alone. Then I learned the truth nobody likes to say out loud. The world doesn't reward intelligence, it rewards influence. It doesn't respect good hearts, it respects strong presence. It doesn't care about your character, it notices your psychological strength. That realization broke the way I saw life, but it also freed me. Machiavelli lived in a world full of betrayal, politics, and strategy. He watched entire kingdoms fall because they didn't understand one rule. Those who know human psychology rule over those who don't. His writings weren't just about history, they were manuals for survival and control. Being ruthless doesn't mean being cruel. It means being aware, sharp, and emotionally disciplined. It means realizing that while you're playing checkers with kindness, others are playing chess with strategy. Before we dive into these lessons, I want you to make a small declaration. Type it, say it, remember it. I refuse to be psychologically dominated by others. This is your first step toward mental freedom, because what follows requires you to stop thinking like prey and start thinking like a predator. Are you ready to become dangerously confident? Let's begin. 1. Fairness is a psychological trap. Here's the first harsh truth. Fairness is an illusion designed to keep you obedient. Every time you wait for fair treatment, someone else takes what you want. Every time you play by imaginary rules, others rewrite the game to fit their benefit. Every time you expect people to return your kindness, manipulators are taking advantage of your predictable behavior. You were taught that being fair makes you good. In reality, it often makes you easy to exploit. Think about your own life. How many times have you shown respect to someone who never respected you back? How many times have you helped someone who never lifted a finger for you? How many times have you patiently waited for your turn while others cut straight to the front? That's not bad luck, that's programming. You've been trained to lose gracefully. Machiavelli wrote that people should either be treated with great generosity or crushed completely because small wounds make enemies, but decisive strikes end resistance. He wasn't talking about violence, he meant psychology. When you slightly hurt someone's ego, they remember and seek revenge. When you dominate completely, they accept their position and move on. Most people live in half measures. They push back weakly against strong personalities. They set soft boundaries against aggressive people. They try reasoning with those who only understand control. That approach backfires. You appear weak, but still create enemies who plan to outsmart you. True psychological dominance looks different. When someone disrespects you, you don't argue or beg for understanding. You let your actions show that disrespect comes with an immediate cost. You don't plead for better treatment. You make sure treating you well becomes the only option that benefits them. Stop being fair with people who aren't fair to you. Be strategic with people who only respond to power. 2. Ruthlessness is emotional discipline. Most people think ruthlessness means losing your temper or acting cruel. They couldn't be more wrong. Real ruthlessness means emotional control. It's the ability to stay calm when everyone else is losing their balance. Ruthless people don't lash out. They plan. They don't react. They respond. They daren't make choices out of anger. They act based on logic and what helps their position most. Emotionally reactive people never build long-term influence because they're predictable. Anyone who learns which buttons to push can control them. Every time they get triggered, they hand their power away. Psychologically strong people understand that emotions are signals, not commands. They feel anger or frustration, but don't let those emotions dictate what they do next. Imagine someone publicly embarrasses you. The average person argues, defends themselves, and ends up looking smaller. The psychologically disciplined person handles it differently. They register the insult, note the feeling, then ask, what response will strengthen my reputation while weakening theirs? Sometimes that means staying silent, showing that the other person's words don't even deserve a reaction. Sometimes it's a simple factual correction that makes the attacker look foolish. Sometimes it's turning the moment into proof of your calm control. Whatever the case, the reaction is deliberate, never emotional. Machiavelli said that when punishment is necessary, it should be quick and final. In psychological terms, when you decide to respond to disrespect, make your move once and decisively. Don't drag it into endless back and forths. End the conflict on your terms. Think about the strongest people you know. Do they explode often? Do they argue with everyone who provokes them? Of course not. They choose when to react. They protect their emotional independence. This kind of control is power. When others realize they can't mess with your emotions, they start respecting you, or at least, fearing to test you. Master your emotions. Let others react. You stay in command. 3. Psychological dominance beats likability. This truth breaks most people's childhood conditioning. Being respected will always matter more than being liked. When people only like you, they test your boundaries because they assume you'll forgive them. But when they respect you, they think twice before crossing you because they know the cost. Nice people are predictable. They're seen as safe and easy to handle because everyone knows they won't retaliate. Psychologically dominant people, however, are unpredictable. They're treated with caution because people know they can and will protect their interests. Look at your own circles. Who gets the most respect? The overly kind person or the one with presence? Who gets consulted when tough decisions are made? The one who agrees with everyone, or the one whose approval carries weight? Machiavelli put it plainly, if you must choose, it's safer to be feared than loved. That doesn't mean being cruel. It means having an energy that says, don't test me. It means being known as fair, but firm. Likeable people say yes to things they hate doing just to avoid disappointing others. Dominant people say no without apology. Likeable people tolerate disrespect, hoping it'll stop. Dominant people stop it at once. Likeable people chase acceptance. Dominant people decide where they belong. When you shift from likability to dominance, your mindset changes. You stop asking, will they like me if I do this? And start asking, does this increase my influence or decrease it? You stop worrying about keeping everyone comfortable and start becoming comfortable with their discomfort. You stop chasing approval and become someone whose approval others want. You stop offering respect to those who don't earn it and start making your respect something valuable. Build your psychological dominance by enforcing your standards consistently. Don't beg to be included. Make others earn your presence. 4. Decisive action builds psychological superiority. Here S, where many people destroy their credibility. They act small and often instead of big, and rarely. Weak personalities keep warning people but never follow through. They issue threats, then back down. They talk about consequences but never deliver them. This teaches everyone that your words mean nothing. Once people learn that, they stop taking you seriously. Strong people do the opposite. They speak less, act more, and when they do act, it's memorable. Machiavelli advised that if harm must be done, make it decisive so that retaliation isn't possible. In psychology, that means when you have to assert power, make your move clear and final. For example, say someone in your group keeps disrespecting you, mocking your ideas, or interrupting you. A weak response is to keep asking them to stop. That only reinforces their power because it shows you're emotionally affected. A dominant response would be to recognize the pattern and then act once, decisively. Maybe you call them out in front of others. Maybe you withdraw something they value. Maybe you show through action that crossing you has a cost. Your move should be strong enough that they won't risk doing it again. It's not about revenge. It's about ending the behavior. This applies everywhere. Instead of constantly reminding people how valuable you are, you show it once in a way no one forgets. Instead of always being available, you occasionally pull back so they feel your absence. Instead of repeating your stance, you make choices that prove it. Speak less, act more. When you act, follow through fully. Let your consistency build your reputation. 5. Managing perception is controlling reality. This is where the real masters of psychology operate. People's perception of you often matters more than who you actually are. Most people focus on being good and hope others notice. That's a mistake. People don't investigate deeply, they rely on surface signals and social proof. If you don't shape how people see you, someone else will, and probably not in your favor. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few truly know what you are. Your image is your power. Your reputation is your currency. Your perceived value becomes your real value in people's minds. Those who understand psychology craft their image intentionally. They don't fake themselves, they highlight their strongest traits strategically. Think of two people who accomplish the same thing. One documents it, shows confidence, and demonstrates skill. The other stays quiet, believing their work speaks for itself. Guess who gets the attention and opportunities? The one who managed perception. It's the same offline. Your posture, your tone, your clothing, your confidence, all send signals before you even speak. Walk into a room with calm confidence, make eye contact, and people unconsciously treat you as important. Walk in timidly, and they overlook you. People treat you the way you train them to treat you. You control your narrative by deciding which stories get told. You highlight achievements, minimize weaknesses, and associate with people who elevate your status. You keep some mystery so people fill the blanks with respect instead of pity. Even when you're unsure, you project calm assurance because confidence attracts and uncertainty repels. Protect and refine your reputation. It's the foundation of your psychological power. 6. Narrative control is psychological warfare. There's something most people never realize. The truth doesn't matter if the story is convincing enough. The world doesn't remember facts. It remembers stories. The person who controls the story controls how everyone else feels, reacts, and chooses sides. You've seen it happen. Someone makes a mistake, and before they even explain, the world already decided they're guilty. Another person does something worse, but because their story sounds noble, people forgive them instantly. That's narrative power. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew perception could bend reality, and reality would follow. He said that people judge more by what they see than by what is true, and once their minds are made up, logic doesn't reach them. The real battle for influence isn't about who's right, it's about who defines what's right. Think about the last time someone twisted your words. You probably rushed to defend yourself, trying to explain what you meant. But the more you explained, the more guilty you sounded. That's the trap. Once you start playing defense, you lose control of the story. The strong don't explain, they reframe. When someone attacks their image, they don't fight inside that frame. They create a new one. Someone says they're arrogant, they turn it into confidence. Someone says they're cold, they turn it into focus. Someone says they're ruthless, they turn it into discipline. You can't win inside someone else's story. You have to write your own. That's why the most powerful people seem untouchable. Even when they're wrong, they look composed. Even when they're attacked, they look in control. Their calmness itself tells a story. The story that they're unbothered, certain, and still in charge. Control of narrative starts inside your mind. You must stop believing every interpretation others place on you. When someone tries to define you, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, is their version of me the truth, or just the story they want others to believe? Once you start asking that question, you stop reacting emotionally. You start acting strategically. You begin shaping your own version of events, your own identity, your own meaning behind every action. Narrative control is psychological warfare because it determines who appears strong and who appears weak, and humans always side with perceived strength. The one who defines the story wins the room, always. 7. People respect what they can't predict. Predictability is comfortable, and that's why it kills respect. People only fear or admire what they can't fully understand. When others can predict your every move, you become boring, you become safe, and safe means forgettable. Machiavelli warned rulers never to let others see their full intentions. He said a prince should be a master of disguise, revealing just enough to gain trust, but never enough to be completely read. The same rule applies today. You don't need to hide who you are, but you must stop showing everything. There's something magnetic about mystery. When people can't figure you out, their minds keep circling back to you. They talk about you, wonder about you, analyze your silence, all of which increase your presence in their thoughts. But if you give them constant access, constant explanations, constant reactions, they stop being curious. They stop caring. Unpredictability keeps others off balance. It makes them think twice before trying to control you. You can be kind, but not always. Generous, but not constantly. Available, but not every time they call. When people realize they can't depend on your reactions, they begin to approach with caution. They become careful with their words around you. That's psychological respect. You don't need to pretend to be mysterious. You simply stop being predictable. You don't always respond to messages instantly. You don't always explain where you're going or what you're planning. You leave gaps. You let silence do the talking. People who can't predict you, can't manipulate you. They'll call you distant, cold, or difficult, but deep down they'll respect you. They'll feel a small tension every time they interact with you. The kind that says, I can't control this person. That's when the power dynamic shifts. When you stop being fully readable, you stop being fully controllable. Even in friendships, unpredictability builds quiet dominance. It keeps the balance in your favor. It makes your presence feel stronger. Remember this, the less people can guess what you'll do, the more they'll treat you with respect. 8. Power is maintained through distance. Now we reach the lesson that most people can't accept. Distance is power. We grow up believing closeness builds respect, but in reality, constant access destroys it. The more familiar people get with you, the less they value you. When people see you every day, hear your every thought, and know all your weaknesses, you stop being special. You become another ordinary presence. Machiavelli observed this pattern centuries ago. He noticed that rulers who tried too hard to be loved ended up losing their authority. The more they opened themselves to everyone, the less fear, awe, and admiration they inspired. He wrote that a wise leader must be both loved and feared, but if he had to choose, being feared was safer, because fear creates distance, and distance creates power. That doesn't mean becoming cruel or cold. It means being selective with your presence. You can be kind without being accessible. You can be warm without being always available. You can care for people without letting them invade your peace. Scarcity makes value. If everyone can reach you anytime, they won't respect your time. If everyone can talk to you whenever they please, your words will lose weight. You have to teach people that your attention is earned, not owed. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is disappear for a while. Go silent after a big move. Walk away without announcing it. Let people feel your absence. Your absence speaks louder than your words ever could. When you distance yourself, people start realizing how much energy and stability your presence gave them. They start craving it back. That's the psychology of scarcity. Distance builds anticipation. Anticipation builds value. It's not manipulation, it's management. You're managing how people experience you. The most respected individuals in any environment, leaders, creators, thinkers, all practiced controlled distance. They're visible enough to be remembered, but scarce enough to stay valuable. Even your silence should make people wonder what you're thinking. Every message you don't respond to immediately adds a small layer of mystery. Every invitation you decline politely reminds people that your time matters. Every boundary you hold strengthens your reputation. And when you finally choose to show up, everyone pays attention, because they know your appearance means something. Distance doesn't isolate you, it amplifies your presence. You start realizing that these principles just describe manipulation. They describe survival in a world built on influence. When you practice them, people will start saying things like you've changed, or you're colder now. But what they really mean is, I can't control you anymore. You're no longer responding to their emotions the way you used to. You're no longer the easy target they could guilt or pressure into obedience. That's what power feels like, not domination, but freedom. Machiavelli wasn't teaching cruelty, he was teaching awareness. He wanted people to understand that without strategy, goodness becomes weakness. Without boundaries, kindness becomes exhaustion. Without self-control, empathy becomes self-destruction. He knew the human mind better than most. He knew that behind every smile, there's a strategy. Behind every alliance, there's a motive. Behind every compliment, there's calculation. And he accepted that truth without emotion, because denying it doesn't make it disappear. You can be good and still understand darkness. In fact, that's what makes you powerful, knowing how the game works, but choosing when and how to play it. When you combine awareness with restraint, kindness with boundaries, and strength with silence, you become unstoppable. There's something magnetic about a person who doesn't react easily, doesn't explain themselves constantly, and doesn't seek approval. They walk differently, they talk slower, they make others adjust to their pace. That calm control is what Machiavelli admired most, the kind of quiet authority that doesn't need to shout. Because when you understand people deeply, you no longer chase them, you study them, you no longer compete with them, you influence them, you no longer fight for space, you create space. Psychological power isn't about forcing people to obey you, it's about making them choose to respect you. That's what happens when you stop being predictable, when you stop explaining yourself, and when you stop trying to be liked by everyone. You rise quietly, you move strategically, you think before you speak, observe before you act, and disappear before they take you for granted. You become someone whose presence is remembered and whose absence is felt. And that's what Machiavelli meant by power. He understood that humans are driven by desire, fear, and respect. You can't control desire. You can't stop fear, but you can earn respect, and once you have that, everything else follows. Respect is built on perception. Perception is built on narrative. And narrative is built on how you carry yourself when others try to shake you. When you stop reacting emotionally, you rewrite your identity. When you walk away calmly instead of arguing, you show power. When you maintain your mystery instead of oversharing, you show strength. When you hold distance instead of chasing approval, you show control. Every one of these actions silently reprograms how people treat you. They may not say it out loud, but they'll feel it. They'll sense the shift. And deep down they'll start to realize you're no longer playing their game. You've started your own. That's when you become someone different. Someone people can't manipulate, can't guilt, can't predict. They might try, they'll test your limits, your patience, your silence. But each time you stay composed, their control weakens, because power isn't loud. It's quiet, it's invisible, it's psychological. You don't show it by shouting. You show it by staying still while others panic. You show it by not explaining yourself when others demand answers. You show it by doing less and meaning more. This is how influence works in the real world, not through charm alone, not through talent alone, but through psychological positioning. And that's what Machiavelli understood before anyone else. People may call it dark, but darkness isn't always evil. Sometimes it's just understanding what others ignore. The moment you stop being predictable, stop seeking fairness, and stop giving your energy to everyone, you'll notice something powerful. People start respecting your silence more than they respected your words. They start valuing your time more than they valued your help. They start fearing your calm more than they feared your anger. That's not arrogance, that's psychological evolution. It's what happens when you finally decide to stop being managed by others and start managing how others experience you. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said power is maintained through perception and control. He wasn't teaching manipulation for fun. He was showing how to survive in a world that rewards perception more than truth. And once you internalize that, you'll never go back to being naive again. You'll see people differently. You'll hear conversations differently. You'll recognize motives instantly. And for the first time, you won't feel powerless. You'll feel calm. Because when you understand the psychology behind control, nothing surprises you anymore.